And I want to affirm this. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him.
Good afternoon, everybody. And on behalf of the fellowship here at Bethel Baptist Church, I extend you a very sincere welcome. Thank you for coming. It's good to see each and every one, despite the weather. And that welcome, too, is extended to the Reverend John James of Tabernacle, an aunt, the former pastor of the church for 7 years. Thank you, John, for so readily accepting to come and lead this service this afternoon. This is a unique and historic day in the history of Bethel Baptist Church. Bethel Baptist Church, formerly of James Street, formerly of Mount Stewart Square, and now of Pomeroy Street. It's an end of an era, for Bethel Baptist Church was formed in 1855, over 145 years ago. This area, from Clarence Embankment to Windsor Esplanade, Mount Stewart Square and James Street, was recognised as a high-class residential area. In James Street alone, there were over 60 residential houses, according to the 1855 Cardiff Yearbook, and they were occupied by ship's captains, steamship owners, master mariners, boatmen. I'm going to say sellers of beer, although the book said beer sellers. But sellers of beer there were, and as this week's Cardiff Post said, the streets were run by Satan. There was even a missionary resident in this area 150 years ago. Well, it was in such an environment in the 1840s that two Christian stalwarts formed a Sunday school in the loft off West Bute Street. It proved they must have been committed Christians to start a Sunday school in those days, I feel sure. It proved so successful that they went to the mother church of Bethany Baptist Church, which is now overtaken by the Howells departmental store, and 14 members from that church were dismissed for the purpose of forming a mission chapel in the docks area. A mortgage of £500 was taken out, and they converted a house into a chapel with a baptistry, and the faded writings of the minute books are so faded, I think the word was galleons, but I'm unsure. It was to be known as the Bethel, not Ararat or Gravestone Baptist or Bethel Baptist. It was called the Bethel, that is in the minute, and this we've always referred to as the Bethel, haven't we? Well, donations were asked for, and subscriptions of a penny a week were raised to pay off the debt. In 1855, the Reverend George Howe came to be the first pastor of the church, and his stipend was £90 per annum. Membership increased, and meetings were held very regularly, and from an entry of one minute book, we read that it was resolved that seats be left at 2 shillings per sitting near the front. The second seats were 1 and 9, and elsewhere was a shilling. Next next month's meeting it resolved that it would be a shilling everywhere. And the first item at most of the church meetings was the appointment of 2 men to look after the boys in the gallery and 2 women to look after the girls in the gallery. And also in the minutes after every meeting, they had a tea party and a tea. Because as an entry there, 70 pounds of plum cake and 50 pounds of seed cake to be ordered. They progressed so well that larger premises were soon needed, and a letter to the trustees of the estate of Sir John Crichton Stewart, Marquis of Bute and Earl of Dumfries, who hold on to the whole of Cardiff, if not the docks area, saying we're having difficulty in holding Sunday evening service because of the noise and clamour outside where people couldn't get into an already filled church. Can you let us have some land at the southwest corner of Bute Street? Red brick capped by concrete blocks. Some months ago they started moving slowly. A month ago they were thrown down the wells down there. The bricks outside are now being dislodged and dismantled. The mess down the wells is beyond description. We used to be, when we were younger, able to clear it. We've now paid over £100 in the last month or so to get it cleared. We've had paint thrown at the steps, eggshells. We can't cope with it any longer, you see. The railings are loosening out there too, and I wonder. Now the Salvation Army were here from December until April, and they occupied the building and did Sunday night service, and very often they had to come and remove the buckets and mop up. There are temporary repairs there and here. Every time I sit there, I look up. I say, you're all right for a while. The windows won't open. The block flooring downstairs has had to be repaired. We have steps up to the church, we have steps down to the church, and the new government law says that all public buildings must provide ramps and access for the disabled and the handicapped. The rest of us in our mid-70s, we had a phone call here the other month. You tell me the name of your youth leader, please. Let me just mention one, Mrs. Marjorie Hill, who has known no other church other than Bethel for her whole life. She was baptized 69 years ago. Marjorie has just returned after a major operation. She has been a real faithful, stalwart member of the fellowship and of the sisterhood and Christian Endeavour. She used to come down 2 buses from Birch Grove in all weathers at night time for the Endeavour, going down the dark steps to get here early to put the saucers on the radiator. We picked up Marjorie at Caerphilly Mitacoy Crossroads for many years, and she's always been there regularly on time. Those crossroads are going to miss you on Thursday and Sunday morning, no? Marjorie, thank you and bless you for all the work you've done for Bethel. Marjorie could have almost drowned in the canal. Marjorie could also have drowned in the canal. I think she was saved for a purpose. Mrs. Elsa Wollstonecroft, too, has been a member for over 67 years. Another faithful servant to the church, the Sunday school, Christian Endeavour and Sisterhood. Mr. and Mrs. Philip Patterson and Vera, over 63 years. They all served faithfully. Iris, Kathleen, Frank Rees, Joan and Mary, over 58 years. Mary, too, has done many years as a pulpit supply secretary. Mr. and Mrs. Sadler, Mrs. Dorothy Cannon, who's our oldest member at 80-something. She too is the assistant organist. Mr. John Wollstonecroft, always faithful on the door and giving out the books. Mrs. Joan Humphreys, Gwyneth Williams, Mrs. Myrtle and Sheila. Good to see you, Sheila, here too. If we're all well, we number about 14 or 60 on a Sunday morning, perhaps 7 on a 30. 4 of us live 6 miles away in Birch Grove, Lanisham and Kincoy. 2 live in Surrey, 2 live in Ely, soon to go to Whitchurch, 1 in Dinas Powys, the rest in Grangestown. And some catch taxis for the services. I can remember coming down on the tram on the Bute Road on a roller coaster doing about 40 miles an hour if the cables didn't come off with my father and my other brother. In the 50s, and I can't believe this, I used to cycle down with Richard on the front seat. Did I do it wrong, Jim? In the 60s, it was a nice drive on a Sunday morning coming down or a Sunday night. Today's drive is hazardous, isn't it? There are financial, maintenance, heating, administrative matters to be seen to, and our mental and physical abilities are not as they used to be. So the pillar equipment, and churches have to move with the changes and the day-to-day. It's all passed us by. We've got no internet, no computer, no emails. And yet when I was in the States some years ago, I spoke to my son about, he said, internet, great. Anything you want to know? I said, Bethel Baptist Church, Pomeroy Street. In the States, Bethel Baptist Church, okay, no, Mr. B.G. Purchase, Chair of Trustees, so we're going. But sadly, after being members of the Baptist Union for many years, the church opted out in 1989, which meant that we had an involved legal issue regarding our ultimate trust and a beneficiary which didn't exist, and there was no immediate successor. So all our contacts with the Charity Commission have had to be in long hands. We could have done with some emails, but it's all past us now. In closing, and we also, somebody saying that last. We referred earlier to meetings at which they had a tea after it. Well, guess what? We've got a meeting now, and downstairs there's tea and refreshments. There's also some memorabilia and photographs down there too, so you're all welcome. Please use either that entrance or that one, go down the lane and go under there. It's a little bit dangerous that side. There's an extra hidden step. It's been on the contrary. 2 weeks ago on a Monday, I went in the Western Mail and Echo office. I said, here we are, look. Please put this in your news in brief on the Thursday. Fine, no trouble. Nothing the first week. On the following Monday, rang them up. No trace of that. So he said, all the details again. Nothing at all. Although they showed a cat was being rescued in Tays Terrace, guttering. Well, finally we got a notice in last night, but I can't understand what went wrong. But we've got a fairly full church, so I'm thankful that you all came. Finally, there is no collection. The banks have gone to another church. I'm going to say this again. We thank our God for every remembrance of you, for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. Thank you very much.
Marvelous summary. All those years in such a short space of time. Marjorie.
When Vivian asked me about a fortnight ago if I would come out and speak about some of the things that happened during my years here, I said, no, thank you. No, I couldn't possibly do that. It's going to be a very traumatic time for us when we close, so I can't do it. And he said, right, Marjorie, that's quite all right. Don't you worry about it. But however, I would like to just say, while I'm here, having been in this fellowship all my life, it's been a wonderful fellowship. We've been a loving, generous, kind fellowship. We've cried with people who've been sad and cried, and we've laughed with people who've been